welcome to Nourishing the Mother, where inspired women talk about the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness. We ask, in what ways can we show up more fully, live more meaningfully, parent more wholly, and love more unconditionally? How can we mine the wisdom from the experiences of our lives and expand into those challenges? If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs, so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way. And if you feel like giving a little back to this free content, please become a patron of the show and receive extra member benefits for less than a coffee a month. Or you can leave a review on iTunes and Facebook, all of which helps the podcast keep going and reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul. Head on over to patreon.com/NTM podcast to find out more. We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we are so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner, and today's podcast follows on from last week. Even Julie's relationship gets hard, and this is part 2. So we really hope you get some wisdom, some insight, maybe just some camaraderie from it, and we would love to hear if you do, so please get in contact with us. Also, I'd love to remind you to jump onto nourishingthemother.com.au and sign up to join our community, and that's baby Pearl, who's asking you to join too. Yes. And once in a while, we'll shoot you off an email. We won't clog your inbox. We'll just let you know what's going on so you can pick and choose. We'd love to dive deeper. So nourishingthemother.com.au, join our community, and we hope you enjoy the podcast. So I'm feeling this rage and I'm going, oh, I like me like this. Like there's part of me that's like, I like this, take no prisoners, fuck you and the system. Yeah, you want to know when enough is enough? I'm ready to tell you, because for the first time in my life, all of the stories that I grew up with around being a tall poppy, which if you're not familiar with that statement because you're not from Australia, is this concept of when you rise too tall, that we will cut you down so that you're more like us.
And you're more,
manageable.
Yeah.
That your shine is not so great that I can no longer tolerate you. And we do this in so many ways, the great leveler of all different types, the way we cut women down, the way we cut our husbands down, the way we do it to each other all of the time, just to make you more manageable for me.
Yeah.
And I grew up with that from my dad and from my mum, don't be too big for your boots. And from my dad as well, like don't count your chickens before they've hatched. This whole, these narratives that I can feel in my body. This, you might think you're that, but because you think you're that, I'm going to tell you all the shit that's wrong with you just so you don't start thinking you're too good.
Yeah. God, I know that narrative well too.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually don't think there's many of us that aren't touched by it. But I can feel into all of that. I can feel into the way that my mum taught me to pit against other women and tear them down just so I felt better. I can see all of the ways my mum did that to me. And I can see all of the ways my dad was so uncomfortable with outward expressions of anything. Celebration, joy, exuberance, fat, anything that was in excess was not allowed. So I'm feeling all of this. And for the first time in my life, I'm like, there's no part of me that feels that anymore. Like there's no part of me that's hanging on to that story anymore. But I have for a lot of years, most of the years of my life. I don't feel it anymore. It's not part of me. And I am unwilling for you to make it part of me. No, not part of this. So I take a breath. You want me to tell you when enough is enough? Never, ever and I am always going to want more. So when the universe shows me that I'm on path, and when the universe delivers me, I don't care if it's $10 into my account, you can be sure I'm going to celebrate the fucking shit out of that. Because here is me saying to the universe, I see you. Thank you. You fill me up, and I want to send that back and let you know I love it and I appreciate it, and I want to be in that vibration, and I want more of it to come to me, and what you appreciate appreciates. Do you think I'm going to watch something drop into my account and just pretend like it didn't happen? I said, no. I'm in a relationship with money, and you better think that I am loving it like a lover, and I do not give my lovers the cold shoulder, and I do not pretend you don't exist, and I sure as shit do not see you walk in the door and just walk away from you and go like, ugh, I'm not even going to acknowledge that you exist. So I went on this, so I can't even tell you because it felt channeled. And I was like, I reckon I spoke for about a solid 10 minutes as I'm like, it's never enough. And I'm always going to want more. And we have to celebrate, because celebration is this, and it's the law of attraction in action. And I'm going to, and I was like feeling all of it. And I was like, and how dare you stand there like the patriarchy has for centuries and tell me that I'm fucking crazy when the shit that I knew was already happening with your fear of success and your inability to accept it and tolerate it and see it, and you want to make that my problem? No, I'm not crazy. I knew this was exactly what you were saying and doing, and you would known it, and you wanted to make me crazy for it, and I'm not going to let you, because I cannot go back. I'm like this, but like way more like channeled than that, because I'm retelling the story, obviously.
I trust that it was like this incredible, like,
it was way more channeled.
Just, it's like standing on it.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
What's that? What are those things?
I felt like I was standing on, honestly, 10,000 years of women's suppression. That's what I felt like was coming through my voice. It felt like it was from the very center of my cervix, this voice that was coming out of me. And as I'm there, I'm like, and I don't know why you are so uncomfortable with success, but for me to be everything that I want to be, for me to have everything that I want you to have and me to have and our kids to have, this can't be here. I want success, and I don't know why, other than the fact that I see your dad do it to you is, yeah, okay, well, you had that, but I'm going to tell you all the shit that's wrong with you just so you don't get too big. And all of the reasons that I see this part in you that's dying, that's never fully lived, that doesn't even know his true purpose or is even too fucking scared to live it. I can feel this part of you that is dying, and it breaks my heart, because I want you to have and do and be everything in the world that you want to have and do and be. And in this moment, if you cannot say, I have left it all on the floor, if you can't say, I have lived this life with everything, then what the fuck are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? I live every day knowing my death is round the corner. Maybe that comes from watching a dad do what you're doing. Maybe that comes from watching death. But I cannot live a life of mediocrity. And this belief is mediocrity. I cannot live that. And I don't want it for you. And I went on this whole thing. He's sobbing. Absolutely a puddle of tears as the truth just like hits this chord in him that has never hit before. And I know he can see and feel into all of the ways that his parents are deeply uncomfortable with success, and that he has carried that, and that he even said, I've worked so hard on trying to celebrate the kids the way that you celebrate them. And I'm like, I know, but there's more to go. Because it's never enough. And we just keep celebrating because everything is a law of attraction. I went this whole thing, And I'm like, and your weight, like we did our affirmations together back in, you know, the start of January where you said, I'm just going to, you know, lose weight. And I was like, oh, stab me in the eye. I've heard this for like 14 fucking years. Seriously, pull it down. What is the daily action? And he's like, well, I'm just going to exercise more and eat less. And I'm like, ugh, that's never going to happen. You know, and I said it to him back then. Do you think he's done a fucking thing between then and now? Nothing. Just sitting on the couch eating bowls of ice cream. So I said to him, how much do you think this belief, this fat, this weight is attached to your fear of success? Because if you were really successful, what would have to change? And are you scared of what would have to change? And he was like, yeah, I think I am.
It's really big.
It was like massive. So we're both like sobbing on the floor of our bedroom in this tiny little crevice where I like needed to feel small. And I just kept reminding myself, come from your heart, like open, open, open. And so every word that I'm saying is not an attack of him, but it's a truth. I can't be here anymore. I can't do this anymore. And I desire and I want, you know, it's the truth of I want this for you and I want this for me and I cannot and I will not and this thing and how dare you fucking make me crazy when it was just you not owning your shit. The rage that I still feel from that is visceral because this is the constant narrative of the patriarchy.
Well, it's
you're crazy.
Yeah,
when in fact your body's just read the fucking truth. And you don't want to own it, so you'll make it me. And it made me so angry. And yet for the first time, I can draw this line in the sand where I fully and totally trust my own body and inner knowing more deeply than I trust anybody's outside opinion, including that of my most intimate partner. That's a pretty fucking powerful place to be.
Yeah.
Because when you can realise that, the rest of the world's kind of easy.
Well, that's the thing of it, because the biggest fear of rejection is the fear of rejection or the fear of abandonment in the most intimate relationships we have.
Yeah.
And when you can drop into your body's knowing so powerfully, and I think this is also know that you're held and know that you're anchored and know and trust, then your ability to be authentic then is unmatched, right? Like,
yeah.
You're there.
And there's this part of me that totally knows the dichotomy of relationship is that to have it all, you have to be willing to risk it all.
Yeah.
It's the truth of it. That's the spiritual practice. Is I have to be so surrendered in this moment that I'm willing to die as I am dissolved in this moment. And that my heart is what continues to be with and come through. And that it is the truth of the revealed heart that he feels, not the shutting down and the shells that he hits instead. Because I'll evoke mediocrity if he hits those. If I close in fear, if I only partially, you know, reveal my heart and keep it all shut down, then he just feels that.
Yeah.
So the level to which I'm closed is the level to which
he can meet you.
Yeah, is who I'm evoking as a partner in front of me. That's not me. I am the leave it all on the dance floor, because if I were to die in the next 5 minutes, I want to know as I rise out of my body that I did it all every day, that I gave everything of my existence of what I had and that I left nothing. I have to live that way. I have to.
It's so freaking beautiful.
Because my dad died of its opposite, which is, funnily enough, the parallel I see in my husband. Right? Like,
which is so heartbreaking, but then on some level it's also continuing to remind you of that, right? Like witnessing that and seeing that in your intimacy with him is like your medicine in some ways to continue to evoke your truth.
Yeah.
right?
It's true.
Like that's part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Until you no longer need it there. Right.
Yeah. I still need it there. It's still one of my most potent
ways to
fuels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. But it breaks my heart to witness someone that I love so deeply living a less than full expression of who they are because they're so stuck in fear. So this moment was so profound, this argument was so profound for me for so many reasons that I wanted to bring here, because it just seemed to speak of so many truths. And I think we've probably already touched on them, but I'll just kind of rehash them a little bit. There's such a truth in the patriarchy will make you crazy to the extent you're willing to accept that.
Break that down. So you mean, so if you accept the patriarchy's, you know, determination that you're crazy, then that's what you'll be. To the extent to which you challenge that
and hold on to self, trust the deeper unseen knowing rather than the
linear
rationalizations outside of you. Because I knew instantaneously, it's like I could plug straight in. Yep. I see that. I see that fear of success and rejection of money, which is just financial disempowerment, right? I see it. And you want to make me crazy for it? Like, fuck you.
Yeah. No, not happening.
I'm not letting you do that. I let people do that to me for too many years. No more. So, but the way to heal that is through loving them. It's not through hating them. Yeah,
and it's true. It's true. I mean, this is the thing, right? This is the work of the mirror too, and this is the work of opening into what feels most uncomfortable, knowing that that's where your truth is. That's it, where the other side of your, I guess, liberation is. Because the extent to which you can love that and to continue to make love to it is the ability for which it can transform.
100%.
And that's the work, right?
Oh,
constantly.
It is the temple, right? And I totally saw in that moment that it was attached to all of these deeper currents of my childhood. So thank you for the cycle that triggers my trauma that allows me to release it, because I have to fully release that from my body in order to have the affirmations that I want. Yeah. Right? So here's my beautiful relationship, bringing it to the forefront. Like how the dynamic of it all just sometimes humbles me so much. I feel like I can't even believe it, you know, sometimes. And then it was for me the piece of just getting really comfortable with success, and so comfortable that I'm willing to say it's never enough, because I'm not going to stop and just stay frozen in time like Snow White or something, encased in glass. That's not me. I don't think it's any feminine, but it's certainly not me. I am continuously going to be evolving, which means I'm continuously going to be changing, which means I'm continuously going to be seeking new desires. So the concept of enough is not even a concept.
It's not even a potential.
No. There's no like linear, that's the end goal. When I get there, freedom. No. I'm not a masculine being. It's going to continuously be an evolution of my desires until I leave it all on the dance floor. Because I can't live a life of mediocrity, and I can't love in mediocrity. And I won't let you love me in mediocrity. So I want you to rise. I want you to meet that. And in that moment, though I didn't say it, there's this piece of me that goes, because if you can't, that's okay. But I can't be here for that. Like, not that I even needed to say it, but there was this piece of me that was so
solid.
certain. It was just, I can't.
Yeah.
But I'm going to reveal all of it to you, and I'm going to ask you in all of the ways to come with me because that's my preference. But we still have free will as humans. And if you still choose not to, that's okay, because I can feel your pain enough that I could love that. I could feel my pain and I could still love that. So I love you, but I love me more, really. And I think that's the way it's supposed to be, because I actually think that level of individuation is what makes a relationship extraordinary.
Yeah,
because we don't need the other.
You're whole on your own first without having to.
Yeah. And it just made me think also in terms of this patriarchy and this sense of when women rise, right? Because up until this point, really in our relationship, I've always been dependent on him.
And this is what I hit on with you straight up.
Yeah, which is a fascinating concept.
Yeah. Because you had never, like,
well, really... I just didn't ever think that was a thing for us because we were so open and he was so on my journey with me. Whilst my journey was small.
Yeah, whilst it was,
right?
Yeah, not challenging.
Right. And yet the minute, which is why it sideswiped me so much, because I didn't even know it was there. The minute it hits this threshold where all of a sudden I don't need him in the way that women have needed men for centuries. All of the stuff came out that was like, you can't, and that was the other point I was going to make, was not only success, was that in that moment, that was just meanness. You just wanted to cut me down. That's what that was.
Yeah.
And yet still you wanted to make me crazy for it. When it was you not comfortable with success, financially disempowered, and wanting to just cut me down in all of the ways that you've been cut down. So I can feel that pain. But at the same time, I feel the rage of the feminine for so many centuries. And I was just looking at this whole thing going, fucking fuck. Here it is, right in my own backyard. You know?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so deeply wound into masculine psyches too, and broader than that, everyone's psyches, that kind of, because if people are also repressing their own crazy, right? Like, to the extent to which he can't handle your, in inverted commas, crazy, is the extent to which he's not facing his own chaos and his own, like, parts of him that if he were to face that within himself, he couldn't meet it. So it's easier just to kind of cast it away in dismissal so you don't have to feel it.
Or just continue to consume ice cream. So the sweetness of that fills you up.
Yeah.
And you can stack on enough fat that you build this comfort zone around you.
That you just insulate from it.
Yeah. Because I also knew instantaneously as I'm channeling this moment and talking to him about his own success and weight, that I'm like, bang, of course, because if you lost the weight, your purpose would shine through. And I know he would find his power the moment he does that. He will find it in his body in a way that he's completely disconnected from, because in his mind, in order to stay as the invested provider, father, husband, it has to look like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in order for him to be able to do that, he has to give up on this piece of him, which he wholeheartedly and willingly sacrifices in order to meet. But that breaks my heart. And also, on some level, will continue to leave me unfulfilled by his physical and metaphysical penetration of me, because there's a part of him that's just not alive, that he can't penetrate me with.
You can feel that.
I can feel that.
You can feel it's not there.
Yeah. And so that was one of the other things I said in this moment, where we were both like sobbing and, you know, just sitting on the floor, like facing each other and touching. But, you know, I said to him, change doesn't equal, I can't even think what I said now, change doesn't equal less. Change equals more. In his mind, changing will mean he has to lose X, Y, and Z, or give up on, or can no longer provide in these ways. But I look at change as, the form it all exists in right now has to shift, but it will shift into more. We don't lose when we evolve.
Yeah.
We gain, but it all changes form. And I'm totally good with everything being in chaos and waiting for that to change form. I'm in for that ride. But he doesn't have that level of comfort that I've built over so many years, and it's terrifying for him.
So even though the current reality isn't particularly thrilling for him or fulfilling,
It's mediocre.
it's
good enough.
Comfortable.
But there's a piece, obviously, that now I imagine in that moment, because of the effect that he's not a man that cries really at all. The fact that whatever I was channeling and sending out to him in that moment had that effect on him, I feel like it's got to have hit a point in him that we can't ever come back from now.
No. Yeah.
Like, it's done now.
Yeah.
So I just thought that this was powerful in so many ways, because from a feminist perspective, as we rise, what happens to the patriarchy around us, and how do we handle that? Because I think there's a lot of violence and abuse of women that happens in those scenarios. How do we, as I say, tolerate our own crazy? How do we love them through it? How do we get comfortable with our wanting?
And giving it permission to be there.
Yeah.
Because we will often silence our own wanting or dim our own wanting because we've trained ourselves to.
It was not so long ago, there's no way I could have even said out loud, I want more. No way I could have even said it. But now I'm like, fuck yeah, I want more. Yes, I do. Not afraid to say it. I want you to want it too.
He's got to grow up to that, right?
Yeah. So I just felt like there was so much in that. So that we kind of finished crying, hugged. He looked white as a ghost. So I just was like, man, you have really gone somewhere and processed some shit, because he just looked like death.
Yeah.
I said to him, "Do you just want to go to bed?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm really tired." And I was like, "Yeah," because you've been through the emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
Me, on the other hand, I was psyched.
You were lit.
I was, which I thought, this is so fucking perfect, right? I've gone through pain, and yet on the other side of that is wellspring of energy. So we go to sleep. But then I can't sleep, and I'm lying awake, and I'm just getting angrier and angrier at the patriarchy. And I'm like, fuck you. I'm lying in bed going, this shit is fucked. How do we let this happen? And da-da-da-da. And I'm like, could hardly sleep that night, because I was so just outraged by this inadvertent masculine suppression of
the feminine women. Yeah.
Outraged, was feeling it all the next day, just angry. And then, of course, it turns into, all of a sudden, it's the face of my husband, isn't it? And I'm like, I'm really still unhealed.
Well, we're still not good here.
We're not good here. I don't feel like I know you got it, but what that was it turned into your therapy session rather than a meeting of my pain. And so I'm festering a little bit. Decided I had to go to a basketball meeting that night just so I didn't have to see him. Like the shit we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did have to go to the meeting, but did I really?
Yeah.
But I did.
But you did, because it was,
So then I didn't have to see him. And the next morning I take my son to state basketball at 5:30. So we miss each other because he's gone by the time I've got home.
Tuesday night, our kids have crazy extracurriculars on, so we don't get a turnaround until about 9:30 at night. And, you know, the kitchen bench just needs so much wiping, doesn't it, when you're processing and trying your very hardest to ignore someone but really secretly hoping they're going to, like, acknowledge you in some way.
Yeah.
And then the floor needs sweeping and you're looking at them going, really?
You're still not here.
Yeah. And I can feel it because I'm like edgy as, and he's just edging around me, which fucking shits me because that's so
avoidant.
Well, and it's so his where his family's at, like, just, you know, don't upset her and step around her and sweep it under the rug and, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So in the end, I sit myself on the kitchen bench right in the middle of the room and I'm saying to myself, balls up, just say the thing. Just say the thing. You know, just do it. And so I'm, you know, edging in and out, and then in the end I take the big breath. I know we're running out of time, so long story short. So I finally just say, look, is there anything that feels left for you? Because I'm still feeling a little bit closed to you and not connected. And he was like, no, I'm good. I was like, really? You know, so we edge around this and in the end come around to, no, I'm not good, but I knew you weren't good. So, you know, you were just going to wait for me to be good. Like, you go do your thing and then, you know, I'll be over here. And I was like, what? Like, what are we doing here? And, you know, we circle a little bit more and I said, why don't you step into me in those moments? And he's like, I've worked really hard on that. And it gave me all these examples of how he steps into my fuck off. And he's totally right. That's a level of communication that him and I have been particular about over the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. So I've given him specifically the tools for meeting me, but this level of pain and probably accountability and ownership for how he, you know, I didn't lash out at him. So the fact that he lashed out at me, I think still sat in a way that he couldn't fully own what he'd done.
Yeah, right.
So easier to step away from it than to really own his part in that. And I said, I don't even feel like you've really acknowledged my pain. I felt like it turned into Nick's recovery session. And he was like, but I said sorry to you. I said, yeah, you did, but you didn't really meet me in my pain. I don't feel seen in my pain, the pain, the hurt that you caused. I don't feel like you've met that. And he was like, what does that even mean? How do I do that? And so I specifically stepped out. It was excruciating. I have to parent myself through all of this. And I'll just take that step back as well, because essentially I'm saying to him, why didn't you enter that? And he's like, look, ultimately, because I'm so afraid of rejection. So I guess I don't even go there, like as we're talking about patterning. And I'm like, yeah, but me too. This right here is me way out on the limb, like out on the edge. I had to sit myself on this bench just so I didn't chicken out from saying the thing that I needed to say, because anywhere I sit from here, I can see you. And I had to parent myself to say the thing and be the person that enters the thing. And I have to parent myself in all of the excruciating ways when you ask me exactly what that means and exactly what I want and how I want it. That shit is fucking hard, because here I am on my edge. Totally open to rejection and hurt and ridicule and all of the rest of it. And here I am, and I can do it, and it can look like it's effortless because I'm so practiced at it, because I expect that level from myself. And so I expect that level from you. I'm not here to live in mediocrity.
Yeah.
In case you didn't get that last night. Not that I said that bit. So I just thought that was really interesting, because I'm saying to him, this right here, this is the courage. This is living in the fear that you just stepped away from. That's what this is right now for me. I expect myself to enter that, and I expect that you will too, because this is the same thing. But here I am entering it. This is what it looks like. You know, so we talked around that for a while. And then I told him exactly what I wanted. I said, I just really need to sob and cry from the center of my heart. And I need you to touch my heart with your hand and lay in a dark room right in front of me and just really honor and accept the pain that you caused. And he goes, okay, let's go. So he took my hand and, you know, set up the bedroom and we laid down. And then it was just a process. Then it's our process that we would do normally in any level of intimacy. And so out of the most awkward situation, of course, comes the most incredible intimacy, which is always the other dichotomy of relationship.
Yeah.
So I just felt like this thing that happened could be somebody else's medicine because it felt really potent and powerful.
It's a beautiful share.
And so many stories and takeaways and learnings. And I think there must be many of us who go through this stuff. And also just so you know, like, yes, I have an amazing relationship. It's because we work really hard on it. Like we show up and process all of the shit. I mean, I very crudely call it, we fuck it out. Whatever the shit is that's going on, I bring to our intimacy and we dish it out there and then we can carry through. I don't want to live in mediocrity. Can't tolerate it. So here we are, and that's what it looks like. Sometimes it looks like feeling broken, even though we've been together for nearly 20 years, and still feeling, even though it sits on 20 years, like you're as vulnerable as a newborn and could be snapped broken at any moment, and still fear of rejection.
Isn't that intimacy? And isn't this the truth of intimacy that is so often, in so many ways, completely ignored in our culture? Completely ignored.
Yeah, because it's all about you as opposed to me. Yeah. So I just really wanted you to know, I suppose, that I live what I preach, that it's not that I say one thing and do another, and that I really honestly have a touch point on how hard relationship is because I live it. But I expect myself to show up and to leave it all on the dance floor. And that makes a really meaningful and fulfilling life for me, and super powerful existence where I just feel aligned and opened in love. And that's pretty fucking profound.
I love your shares. I love it.
Thanks.
I love it because I know the pain that it takes to
Really,
get there.
it was the deepest, that moment on that couch was the deepest pain that I can remember feeling, like at this point in my memory ever.
Wow.
But it was extremely different in the way that I've grown into handling that now, rather than all of the evolutions of me that would have handled it differently.
Yeah.
And that feeling that immensity of pain comes with a level of ecstasy too. That there is,
and power.
Yeah.
And like, you know, you meet yourself in every pain that you step into, right? You meet yourself, you meet what you're made of.
Yeah.
And like that's galvanizing, that's powerful.
It is. We have little baby
We
Pearl
have little
because it's
Pearl,
very late
yeah.
at night.
It is. She's a little bit unsure why she's wide awake at this time of night.
I know. Hey, you.
Baby.
So we're going to wrap it up, but thank you for listening to my story. I really hope there was something in there for you. Do you know, I was with a lady today, I think, who said, your friend on Nourishing the Mother has the most beautiful baby. She's so pretty. I said, yes, she is. Yeah. Okay. Wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. So to connect with you, Julie,
is thepleasurenutritionist.com, and you, Bridget,
suburbansandcastles.com,
and us, nourishingthemother.com.au, Nourishing the Mother on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest.
I
don't know.
I think that's it. That's the ensemble.
I was trying to think if we were on Spotify or not.
We're going to be on Spotify, not yet though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember to nourish the woman, to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
And if you want to support Nourishing the Mother and all the late nights, the early mornings, the blood, sweat and tears we pour into our art, then please go to patreon.com/NTM podcast and become our patron. As a patron, you're helping all of the cost of operating this podcast, the hosting, the editing, the transcription, helping all of that be completely covered, and joining a community who are all about honouring our journeys and continuing to open. The more support we have, the longer we can last. So become a patron. We'd love to have you. Go to patreon.com/NTM podcast. We literally couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much for listening, and please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.